How's it going, losers? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about one of my big bugbearers when it comes to training, and something that I see so many people get wrong, both athletes and coaches, and that's deloads. I don't know why, but it's always been one of those other things that when I see people talking about it and people getting it wrong, it actually annoys me, and it shouldn't annoy me because it's nothing to do with me and it's only them that's going to be missing out at the end of the day. But I've always just felt so many people get this wrong, so I'm going to explain the do's and don'ts and how to properly deload, when to do it, and at the end of the video I'm going to give you my little secret recipe on how you can actually deload and make gains at the same time. And I know what you're thinking, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, it does, so you just stick around. So you'll know I like to start a lot of my videos with a little preface about what I don't want my message to be misconstrued as, and I feel like it's very appropriate today because when I first started posting on Instagram back in the day, I used to get misconstrued all the time as me saying that you don't need to take deloads and there's no point in taking deloads. So please, that's not my message here, and if you're thinking that that's what I'm saying, it's really not what I'm saying. You do need your deloads, you do need your time to recover, but the points I'm going to be making is people just do it wrong. Now, the first common mistake that a lot of people do with their deloads is that they take them after an arbitrary amount of time. Like, people will say, oh yeah, I've done 4 weeks training, so it's time to take a deload, or on week 6 of this program, I'm due to take a deload. Like, how can you possibly tell how you're going to be feeling in 6 weeks' time? You don't even know how you're going to be feeling in 6 hours' time. Like, 6 weeks is such a long time. I could even be dead in 6 weeks. You can try and plan and predict how you're going to be feeling after a certain amount of time or a certain amount of training, but at the end of the day, there is just no telling how you're going to be feeling on any given day. And you can go through a period of training that, in theory, you should be a little bit tired and need a deload at the end of it, but you feel totally fine. And then on the other hand, you can go through a period of training where you should be fine and progressing weekly and it shouldn't be too fatiguing, but you end up needing a deload earlier than the planned 6 weeks or whatever it is. So that just kind of comes back to my whole point of what I always encourage my clients to do, is just train to how you feel. If you feel good, then great, go and have a normal training session. If you don't feel so great and you feel a bit tired and weak, then just cut back. And that's the same policy with deloads as well. Like, there's very few occasions where I ever actually say, right, we're going into this week's training or this training session and we're going to plan to be weak. Like, you don't know how you're going to feel until you're in the gym and starting to lift the weights, and then you can tell. And that actually ties into my whole policy about deloads and how you're actually going to be forced into taking them naturally, so that's why we don't plan on them. So there is going to be the days where you just go into the gym and you're a bit tired and weaker and you're just forced into them physically, but then there's also going to be a lot of like life circumstances as well that forces you into taking deloads. You'll have holidays, family commitments, social commitments, you might have busy weeks at work that stops you training, you might be injured. Like, there's so many outside influences that can potentially force you into deloads, and then that's why we just let those times be the actual deloads. Like, it's pretty pointless me saying to a client, oh yeah, go and take a deload next week, if the next again week he's going on holiday, and then you've just lost like 2 weeks of training. And then obviously there's the unplanned stuff as well, where, you know, you might pick up an injury and that forces you into taking a few days or a week like easy training or something like that. So yeah, I don't plan for them, I just let your deloads come as you need them or when you're actually forced into taking them. No, I didn't forget, if you do want to be less of a loser, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to me. Costs you nothing, and it's effectively going to take you on your journey from being a loser to a winner. Now, the second big mistake that I see with deloads is people just taking like a full week off of training. Like, please believe me, see, to fully recover from training, and it doesn't matter how hard you've been training, if you've been training the hardest of all time or something lesser than the hardest of all time, you do not need a full week off of training to recover. That's not how fatiguing and recovering works. Like, you don't have to do absolutely zero, and in fact you shouldn't do absolutely zero because that's actually going to be detrimental. You can recover from a high amount of fatigue by doing less than normal training. It's called a deload, as in a reduced load, not a no load. So you can go into the gym and you can do a lower amount of volume, you can do lower intensity. I'm not going to go into all the specifics, that's probably a different video in amongst itself. My clients have actually got access to that video. But if you're just taking a whole week off of training, that's not going to give you any benefit at all. And it's actually doing that lesser intensity, lesser volume training that's going to allow you to both recover and keep you ticking over to get back in the gym the next again week and ideally be back at your strongest again. Like, if you just got a whole week's worth of training, I'm sure you can probably relate to this at some point. Like, you're going to go back in the gym the next again week and potentially be a little bit rusty and maybe be that little bit sluggish and just not be at your best. So make sure when you do plan to take a deload that it's not just put my feet up for a week and chill out and just sit on my arse and be lazy. Like, do a little bit of training, just don't go at your absolute max. Now, my aforementioned secret on how you can deload and make gains at the same time. So I suppose I will say that when this comes into effect is the odd occasion where I do actually program a deload, maybe after a heavy week of doing like 1 rep maxes or something like that, just a period where, you know, there has been a lot of fatigue built up and we haven't taken one for a while, and then at that point I'll maybe step in and say like, right, okay, let's just like chill out this week to set us up for the next again week. And this has also worked for myself too, so I can personally vouch for this. So what you want to do is you want to set your training session up as normal and take a deload on your main exercises in that session or over the course of that week. So stuff like your deadlift, your squats, bench press, pull-ups, all that type of heavy stuff. Now what that's going to do is take the sting out of the session, because those main exercises, those heavy ones, those are the ones that contribute the most to your fatigue, because obviously they're the heaviest and hardest exercises you do. Take them lighter, and what that's then going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to do all your secondary exercises that you do after them in the session. It's going to allow you to be a little bit fresher and go and push on them. You can go and train them harder, hopefully make some gains on them, hit a few PBs that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, and you're going to be able to do that while still actually recovering, because there is only going to be a limit to how much of them you can actually do, because you've done the main exercise before, albeit lighter. But you can still sneak in those PBs, and because you've cut back on all those main exercises, you're not going to be as fatigued just overall. And by the time the next again week rolls around, you're going to be recovered and you can go and train hard again. Hopefully you understood and followed all that, because I feel like I went a little bit all over the place there. But if you've been watching me for this long, you should be used to that by now. Anyway, the specifics of deloading and how to do it and how to plan sessions and percentages and all that stuff, that's a whole different video. I may do a video on that at some point, or I might just leave that for my actual clients, and I've already made a video like that for my clients, so they know that when they do take deloads off their own back, they know exactly how to do it. And track record has shown that they take those deloads and they still have a beneficial training session or week or whatever it may be, and then they come back the next again week and just keep progressing. Coaching inquiry form is linked below if you want to be one of said clients and actually make gains this year and not just spend another year wishing you were making gains and not making gains and trying hard to make gains and just being disappointed. So you can fill that out, we can have a wee chat. Otherwise, if you just want to message me directly, please do so on Instagram. That's also linked in the description below. That's everything from me. Subscribe, like, catch you in the next video.